I'm Dave Shadovitz, editor of Human Resource Executive Magazine, and I'm here at the Recruiting Trends and Talent Tech Conference in West Palm Beach, Florida. And I'm here with William Tincup, who is the president of Recruiting Daily. William,
That's
thank
right.
you for joining me.
I'm happy to be here. Happy to be talking to you, and happy to be in West Palm Beach, quite frankly.
I don't blame you. Same here. So tell me a little bit about your thoughts on the current state of the talent acquisition function today.
So, confusion is one of the words that would come to mind. Chaos, confusion. At this particular juncture, words don't mean anything. And you've been in this industry far longer than I have. You've seen these waves of on-premise versus SaaS and social and mobile and responsive design. And now we're going through another one of those hype phases. The hype phase of AI, machine learning, bots, all of these things. The vendors don't know what they mean. The practitioners don't know what those terms mean. Literally, no one knows what they mean. And they're all trying to figure it out. Like, this is also kind of what happened when social came along. And we were really worried about social, like, what are we going to do when employees are on Facebook? And it was a real concern. People were scared. Now, no one cares. And I think that we're going to go through this hype cycle. I think it's going to be about 2, possibly even 3 years, 36 months, where we get on the other side of this, where it gets to meaning, what does it actually do? So when you tell me this sourcing technology has artificial intelligence in it, that's great, but what does it do? What is the outcome? What insight does it create? From that insight, what action does it create? So, I think it's unfortunate because buyers of technology are confused, the people that you serve, and to some degree, a much smaller degree of Recruiting Daily serves, they're confused. They don't know what to buy. They don't know what to buy. They don't know how to buy and in what stack and how to combine things because it's chaos. It's the Wild West. And so somebody's going to have to come along and kind of make sense of it all. And I think it's the vendors that do that actually come along and say, you know what, I'm not even going to say machine learning. Because, you have a Tesla. Do you really care how the Tesla works? Like, I remember the first car I couldn't work on. So I had a series of cars that I could, but the first car was a Volkswagen Jetta. And it was fuel injected. And I remember at the dealership popping the hood, looking at the engine and going, I have no idea what any of this is. Okay, shut the hood, got in the car and drove off. I think that's how a lot of people, the practitioner side especially, they're going to get to a point where they don't care how it works. Just that it works. Just that it fulfills on the promises that the vendors make to them. About the insight is coming, here's the action that it'll create, here's what it'll tell you, allow you to do. Kind of like a car. It's going to get you from A to B. Do you really care how it gets you from A to B? And I think what will happen is practitioners will say, no, we don't care.
So when it comes to innovation, then where do you think the greatest opportunities lie? I mean, will it be in sourcing? Will it be in recruiting, marketing, something else?
It's going to be in the hardest to find talent markets. So if you look at software engineers in the Valley, healthcare professionals, pretty much anywhere in the United States, where it's the hardest to find talent, that's where innovation is going to be the quickest to come to market because they have to. If you're a hospital, pretty much anywhere in America, you've got a job opening, and we don't make enough nurses and doctors and people that work in hospitals. We don't create enough. So supply and demand, we don't create enough means there's openings everywhere, which means that somehow we got to get creative on how to fill those roles. Do we skill up? Do we harvest our own talent? Do we build our own college? Do we work with a junior college? Like, that's where innovation is going to come from places where it's forced. And that's where innovation comes from, generally speaking, but in the talent market, it's not so much a category as it is an industry that's really struggling for talent.
Yeah, so in recruiting then, are there, certain kinds of questions that HR leaders and recruiters should be asking the vendor community that they're not currently asking them?
So one of my favorites is how do you make money? Which is a hard question to ask as a practitioner to a vendor. When you fall in love with somebody, and you're out to dinner and you're having fun. The technology looks like it's really cool. It's going to work with all the other stuff you got. But at one point, you got to say, how do you make money? Is it in maintenance? Is it in licensing fees? Is it in implementation? So the first question I advise practitioners to ask is, how do you make money? Second is the strength of your user community. I believe you can tell the health of a software company sheerly based on the strength of their user community. You can go and look at companies that have user communities and are really strong. It's probably a pretty good, strong software company. Or you can look at a software company that doesn't have a user community. Why is that? What signal is being sent here? So I want to ask the question about how do you make money. I want you to ask the question about their user community, and then I think some of it comes down to connecting them with like-minded people. So let's say I run a 5,000-person healthcare facility in West Palm Beach. How many other customers of yours are like me, and can you connect us? Because we're going to have very similar talent challenges. They might not be exactly the same, but they're going to be similar enough. And so if you're in manufacturing or if you're in hospitality or whatever, like the misnomer around HR is and has always been that HR is an industry. HR is not an industry. HR works in industry. So if you work at American Airlines, you're in that industry. And so why I think it's important to ask software vendors is, how many people do you have that are like me that I can commiserate with, that I can compare notes with, that I can bond with because we have similar challenges?
Thank you so much.
No worries. No worries.
Again, appreciate your sharing your ideas. You've given us a lot to chew on. Thank you again.
Thank you, and thank you for having me.